Alrighty, here we are yet again. Welcome one, welcome all to the one, the only Junk Shop Library channel, home of An Atheist Reads the Book of Mormon, which does exactly what it says on the tin. Not good for work, not safe for children, and above all, not for the easily offended. On my honor. I see the chat starting to fill up. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Before we do anything else, I got to say a quick thank you to my fantabulous patrons, the folks who have kept the channel on the air, both metaphorically and in a very real sense over the course of the past year or so, and who have continued to show their support during a wildly uneven period of the channel's productive life. Y'all have made more difference than I can easily articulate, so all I can say is thank you very much. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. In a special and particular, y'all know I got to shout out my top tier patron, my genuine calfskin level supporter, the one and only infamous atheist activist and flat earth debunker extraordinaire, the one and only Mr. Paul Camish, the very first patron we ever had here in the library, a longtime supporter and shiller of the channel. He really has gone above and beyond in his support of the channel over the last long little while. And my friend, I thank you. That is an aggressively visible and very white roll of paper towels. One of these days we'll start eating in the dining room like civilized human beings again. There's another one. Good God. Fuck it. Okay. Well, if that rambly foolishness hadn't rambled and foolished enough to scare you away by now, you ain't getting scared off yet. So, without too much further ado, well, first, I got to say a quick hello to my wonderful friend, Diary of Lydia. Good to see you, lady. I've been watching your good news of various stripes unfold of late. Congratulations on very well deserved all of it. All right. Well, first of all, welcome to an unexpectedly earlier time slot. Normally we do Book of Mormon a little later in the evening, but I got my days mixed up and my time slots mixed up, and I scheduled the stream, which works out just fine because now we won't have an overlapping conflict with Lisa for Truth's study of the Bible later in the evening. Somebody drop that link in the chat if you don't mind. BJ Smith, another wonderful friend of the channel. Good to see you, my friend. Just now got the notification. That's all right. I'm still babbling my intro. You know how old Junk Shop does. All right. Well, y'all know how I feel about this thing by now. If you don't, stick around and find out. Although if you're here at this point, I suspect you already can hazard a guess. Because this thing is worse than the Bible in every conceivable way, from the writing style down to the misogyny and clean on through to the blatant shrieking levels of racism. But it seemed like a good idea at the time when I started this series. And if there's one thing old Junk Shop doesn't do too good, it's give up or admit defeat. And I will not be defeated either by Joseph Smith or his miraculous copper plates. Even Lydia says, even I know how you feel about it, right? Everybody knows. Y'all ready for this crap? I'm as ready as I'm getting. Oh, my stars and liver, why do I do this to myself? And why do y'all put up with it? That's what I really want to know. All right. We're in the second book of Nephi, or as we none too affectionately call it here in the library, Nephi, for reasons that will become stupefyingly obvious soon enough if you don't already know. If you don't already know, it's not too late to run. But if you do, run in another tab and leave this muted in the background on another tab and hit that like before you do. Got to shill, y'all. Got to do the YouTube thing. Links to support the channel, link tree in the description, all that mayhem and foolishness that we do so ineptly here at Mayhem and Foolishness Productions. And you're not wrong. There's that, too. Hashtag and it came to pass on the social medias. Second Nephi, chapter 15, begins, as all the chapters do, with a little interpolation by the one and only Mr. Smith, who summarizes what he's about to make up as he flies by the seat of his pants through what has so far been a blindingly obvious and acknowledged plagiarism of the book of the prophet Isaiah in the King James. The Lord's vineyard, Israel, shall become desolate, and his people shall be scattered. Woes shall come upon them in their apostate and scattered state. The Lord shall lift an ensign and gather Israel. Compare Isaiah 5. And then I will sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved, touching his vineyard. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill, and he fenced it, and gathered out the stones thereof, and planted it with the choicest vine, and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein, and he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem, and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard than that? What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, it brought forth wild grapes. And now go to. I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up. And I will break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste. It shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. And I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, and behold, oppression. For righteousness, but behold, a cry. Woe unto them that join house to house, till there can be no place, that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth. In mine ears, said the Lord of hosts, of a truth, many houses shall be desolate, and great and fair cities without inhabitant. Yea, 10 acres of vineyard shall yield 1 bath, and the seed of an homer shall yield an ephah. Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, and wine inflame them. All improv. No script, no plan, no reading ahead. Welcome to the library. And the harp, and the viol, the tabret, and pipe, and wine are in their feasts, but they regard not the work of the Lord, neither consider the operation of his hands. Therefore my people are gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore hell hath enlarged herself, and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory, and their multitude, and their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend into it. And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. But the Lord of hosts shall be exalted in judgment, and God that is holy shall be sanctified in righteousness. Then shall the lambs feed after their manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall strangers eat. Woe unto them that draw iniquity with cords of vanity, and sin, as it were, with a cart rope, that say, let him make speed, hasten his work, that we may see it. And let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel draw nigh and come, that we may know it. Woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil, that put darkness for light, and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet, and sweet for bitter. Woe unto the wise in their own eyes, and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto the mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink. Who justify the wicked for reward, and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. Therefore, as the fire devoureth the stubble, and the flame consumeth the chaff, their root shall be rottenness, and their blossoms shall go up as dust, because they have cast away the law of the Lord of hosts, and despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore is the anger of the Lord kindled against his people, and he hath stretched forth his hand against them, and hath smitten them. And the hills did tremble, and their carcasses were torn in the midst of the streets. For all this, his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. And he will lift up an ensign to the nations from far, and will hiss unto them from the end of the earth. And behold, they shall come with speed, swiftly. None shall be weary, nor stumble among them. None shall slumber, nor sleep. Nor shall the girdle of their loins be loosed, nor the latchet of their shoes be broken. Whose arrows shall be sharp, and all their bows bent, and their horses' hoofs shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind, their roaring like a lion. They shall roar like young lions. Yea, they shall roar, and lay hold of the prey, and shall carry away safe, and none shall deliver. And in that day they shall roar against them like the roaring of the sea. And if they look unto the land, behold, darkness and sorrow, and the light is darkened in the heavens thereof. And there we have 2 Nephi 15. Y'all, if I had had any earthly idea, one single solitary motherfucking clue, that Second Nephi was largely going to be a verse-by-verse rehash in not particularly dissimilar language of the book of the prophet Isaiah, I would have fucking skipped one of them. Yes, people have loins. Not that kind of channel. I would have fucking skipped one of them. This is tedious even by holy book standards. Mark Caesar says, it is extremely disturbing how little of the Book of Mormon you have read so far. I hope you're in for the long haul. Oh, trust me. Disturbing isn't the half of it. Now, on the plus side, we've got this far, and the holy text itself only extends, hang on, to here. All this is back matter. There's a pronunciation guide. There's an index, a very long and extensive index. There's a sort of a mini concordance. There's some definitions. But the last, let's see, it starts on page 532 and runs through 779. So the last 240 pages of this are just appendices, reference material, and so on, and we will not be reading those. So really, we're only this far out from the end. Of course, we only do this once a week, so Old Junk Shop could go gray by the time we get done. Those of you who know me, that's a little joke. Old Junk Shop started going gray when Old Junk Shop was 16. So there's a little relieved about that. Yeah, me too. I have to keep reminding myself of that, because otherwise I'll probably pull the plug on this series, because this book is tedious. Oh my God, we've already read it. We've already read the prophet Isaiah. And not all that long ago. We're only in Ezekiel right now over on Improv Bible Study. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel. It has not been all that long. What? For the umpteenth time in this book so far, I am compelled to ask, why? Why include, why bother writing all this to begin with? You live in a theological society, Mr. Smith. More or less. Lisa says I might want to skip all the ones that say compare. Yeah, but you know what's going to happen as sure as I do? The Mormons will come and tell me I'm conveniently leaving out parts and tell me I'm taking things out of context. And that's one thing. There are many legitimate and valid criticisms of my approach here on the Junk Shop Library channel. But one thing I cannot be accused of with any degree of fairness is taking anything out of context, because we read all the context. If we read a verse, we read the one before, and we read the one after, and the one before that, and the one after that. Trust me, it occurred to me. It did. Skipping the rehash of the book of the prophet Isaiah, but it's just so fucking tedious. But it really and truly makes no sense why you would. I mean, fan fiction is one thing, but this is like including a note that says compare the original. This would be if E.L. James had included compare chapter 12 in, before chapter 12 of 50 colors of brown or whatever it was. Back to the original. I mean, this is terrible. This is not only terrible fan fiction, this is terrible fan fiction badly done. It's not even all that old. It's not like we can say this was written in a pre-literate society. This is from what, 1832? That's 200 years ago. I've been in the same room with clothing that was older than that. And I'm not exaggerating either. I mean that quite literally. Splendors of the Ottoman Sultans was an exhibit I attended, memory serves, at the Pyramid when I was a child in Memphis. And it was disorienting. Literally found it dizzying. To be on the other side of a pane of glass from a garment that was older than my country. It's an experience and a feeling of vertigo that I have never forgotten. It will come to pass, PJ, yes. This too shall pass. At least if I ever keep on reading it and stop complaining about it. I know. Greetings, Richard. Peace and respect, my friend. Good to see you. Nephi's, but well, fair enough, Lisa. Within the confines of the fiction of the world building that Mr. Smith has given us, they did not, in fact, have the Old Testament, as Lisa points out. So Nephi supposedly copied the important parts, which he's been very careful to say, in fairness to Nephi. He has said multiple times that there was other material that he chose not to include. I suspect because Mr. Smith, Nephi, got bored, but what can you do? How can we, this is a good point. How can we say we're reading the correct context? That's fair enough. If you know anything about me and about Mr. Madsen, you know that we take drastically different approaches to Holy Writ and look at it through very different lenses and read it in very different contexts. But, I don't know. I mean, that is an excellent point. But I think that's a more valid point with regard to the Bible. Uncertain authorship, couple of thousand years old, what have you. Who the fuck knows what the context is? Maybe your interpretation is right. Maybe it is a prophecy of aliens. I don't know. Sounds weird out of context, y'all. I know, but it makes sense. With if you read it through the lens that Richard reads it through, it really does make sense as interpretation. But this, we know when it was written. We know who wrote it. We know that Smith didn't dig up magic plates because there's no such thing as magic plates, yo. Sorry to burst your bubble, I say to the legion vast of Mormons who are swarming to watch this chat. I don't know. Ooh. Guns N' Roses concert at the Pyramid. For all the faults of the Pyramid, it was a damn good concert venue. It really was. It was small enough to where you had a good line of sight to the stage from pretty damn near anywhere. Obviously weird little blind corners and stuff, but that's going to be the case anyway. I saw an Amanda Palmer concert from behind a pillar in Nashville a few years ago. It was a weird experience to hear that voice coming out of the ether and only being able to see the piano. Take care, Mark. Stay safe out there, my friend. All right, chapter 16. We got to keep going. We'll never finish if we don't get started. Started? Where did that voice come from? Chapter 16. Isaiah sees the Lord. Isaiah's sins are forgiven. He is called to prophecy. He prophesies of the rejection by the Jews of Christ's teachings. A remnant shall return. Compare Isaiah 6. In the year that King Uzziah died. If you were raised with a certain degree of Sunday school and church background, you can probably just sit this one out. Because as soon as you hear in the year that King Uzziah died, you could probably improv the bulk of the rest of this chapter because, oh my stars, some folks beat some of us over the head with this chapter for a variety of reasons. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphim. Each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. And one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Then said I, Woe is unto me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, for mine eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then flew one of the seraphim unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs from off the altar, and he laid it upon my mouth, and said, Lo, this has touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin purged. Also I heard the voice of the Lord, saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, Here am I, send me. And he said, Go, and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but they understand not, and see ye indeed, but they perceived not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and be converted and healed. Then said I, Lord, how long? And he said, Until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate. And the Lord have removed men far away, for there shall be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. But yet there shall be 1/10, and they shall return, and shall be eaten as a teil tree, and as an oak whose substance is in them when they cast their leaves, so the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. There we have 2 Nephi chapter 16, or Isaiah chapter 6, whichever. Excuse me. Okay, so God, yes, exactly. God doesn't want his people to repent. And whose fault is that? Yeah. It's serious shades of the hardening of Pharaoh's heart in this chapter. Whether that's this chapter of Isaiah or this chapter of the second book of Nephi. God's gonna punish. This chair gets louder every day, I swear to God. God's gonna punish. You transgress, and God's gonna smite. And having made up his mind once to smite, he will not be said nay, except on the occasions when somebody talks him out of it. Cf. Abraham, Sodom, and Gomorrah, for one example. Every time I start to think this Yahweh character could not become less sympathetic, there he is at the bottom of the hole, not just with a spade, but with a fucking steam shovel, operating at full breakneck capacity, digging a hole clear through to Australia. Oh, trust me, I miss the four-faced monsters with eyes in the backs of their wings. Four-faced monsters on unicycles. Credit to Lisa the Truth. Credit where credit is due. But this adds nothing new. This rehash of the book of the prophet Isaiah. It doesn't even, I can't believe these words are about to come out of my mouth. It doesn't even have the grace and storytelling skill obvious in 50 Shades of Grey, which at least brings a new twist to its source material. This is just, this is word by word, blow by blow recounting of the book of Isaiah. This is like the worst book report ever fucking written. This is bad, y'all. This gets worse instead of better, more and more poorly written as time goes on. I don't know what to do with this. I've already monologued about all this shit. If you want to hear my thoughts on the 6th chapter of the book of Isaiah, check out the Isaiah playlist down at wherever the links to the channel are, in whichever side is the body of the YouTube video. I don't fucking know. I'm all turned around and annoyed. Just, check out the Isaiah playlist. Skip to the 2nd or 3rd episode because I kind of plowed through Isaiah. That sounded dirty. Moving right along. This is not good. This is it's a waste of fucking time. Maybe Lisa's right. Maybe I should have just skipped everything that said compare. All right, chapter 17. I'm not gonna, because I swear, as sure as I do, some fucking Mormon's gonna come out of the woodwork. Some fucking member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is going to come out of the woodwork into the comments section and raise all holy hell, saying, "You're taking it out of context." Fuck off. Chapter 17. Ephraim and Syria wage war against Judah. Christ shall be born of a virgin. Compare Isaiah 7. Okie dokie. And it came to pass in the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, that Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, went up toward Jerusalem to war against it, but could not prevail against it. And it was told the house of David, saying, Syria is confederate with Ephraim. And his heart was moved, and the heart of his people, as the trees of the wood are moved with the wind. Then said the Lord unto Isaiah, Go forth now to meet Ahaz, thou and Shear-Jashub, thy son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field, and say unto him, Take heed, and be quiet. Fear not, neither be faint-hearted, for the two tails of these smoking firebrands, for the fierce anger of Rezin with Syria, and of the son of Remaliah, because Syria, Ephraim, and the son of Remaliah have taken evil counsel against thee, saying, Let us go up against Judah and vex it, and let us make a breach therein for us, and set a king in the midst of it, yea, the son of Tabial. Thus saith the Lord God, It shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass. For the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus Rezin. And within 65 years shall Ephraim be broken, that it be not a people. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. If ye will not believe, surely ye shall not be established. Moreover, the Lord spake again unto Ahaz, saying, Ask thee a sign of the Lord thy God. Ask it either in the depths or in the heights above. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I tempt the Lord. And he said, Hear ye now, O house of David. Is it a small thing for ye to weary men, but will weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and to choose the good. For before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that thou abhorrest shall be forsaken of both her kings. The Lord shall bring upon thee, and upon thy people, and upon thy father's house, days that have not come from the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, the king of Assyria. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall hiss for the fly that is in the uttermost part of Egypt, and for the bee that is in the land of Assyria, and they shall come, and shall rest all of them in the desolate valleys, and in the holes of the rocks, and upon all thorns, and upon all bushes. In the same day shall the Lord shave with a razor that is hired by them beyond the river, by the king of Assyria, the head and the hair of the feet, and it shall also consume the beard. And it shall come to pass in that day that a man shall nourish a young cow and 2 sheep. And it shall come to pass, for the abundance of milk they shall give, he shall eat butter. For butter and honey shall every one eat that is left in the land. And it shall come to pass in that day, every place shall be where there were 1,000 vines at 1,000 silverings, which shall be for briars and thorns. With arrows and with bows shall men come thither, because all the land shall become briars and thorns, and all hills that shall be digged with the mattock, there shall not come thither the fear of briars and thorns, but it shall be for the sending forth of oxen, and the treading of lesser cattle. And that's chapter 17. We've done that. We've done this. We've talked about this before. Oh my God. Maybe I should skip this mess. Maybe I should. I won't, but I'm not going to stop complaining neither. Y'all know me by now. Old junk shop and find something to complain about in fucking paradise. Okie dokie. So, I will admit to a mild fondness for one aspect of this story. And no, it's not the thing that so many YouTube atheists like to hammer on about how it's not really virgin, it just means young woman, and it's not really a miracle, it's just blah, 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 blah. I know, I don't care. I love the story out of which the prophecy of the virgin / young woman giving birth arises. There's an invasion. Another invasion out of the north and out of the east. Evil always comes from out of the north and out of the east in these mythologies from this area. Why, you may ask? Well, because there's nothing to the west except the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so an invasion. Yeah, definitely not talking about Jesus, right? Yeah, doesn't really play that way, does it? So there's an invasion going on into the land of the promise. And the word of the Lord comes to Isaiah and says, go meet the king. Tell him, be not afraid, because within 60, 70 years or so, everybody who's invading will be dead anyway, and then I'll bring all the people of the captivity back to Israel, and it's going to be nice, and there's going to be so much milk from having so many cows that you'll be able to have luxuries like butter and eat it all the time. A superabundance of milk wilt thou have. It says, go meet the king and tell him don't stress about it. So it's going to take 70 years or so, but everything's going to be fine eventually. And while you're there, tell him to ask for a sign. Say, you don't believe me, Isaiah? I, Nephi. You don't believe me, Isaiah? I'll prove it's the word of the Lord. Ask for a miracle. Ask for a sign in the heaven above, or a sign in the earth beneath, or a sign in the waters that are under the earth. Ask for a miracle, a sign from the Lord, and God will do it. You want the sun to stand still in the sky. You want the water in the sea to stand up on one side like Nosferatu. I'll do it. Thus, also sprach Yahweh. I'll do it. I'll prove it. This is legit the word of the Lord and not just the babblings of crazy Isaiah with the sunburned dick from rambling around in the desert for 3 years, stark-ass naked. Read the book of Isaiah if you don't believe me. And so Isaiah goes off and he accosts the king, takes his son with the unpronounceable name, Gabbledygook or whatever the son's bothersome name is, and goes out and meets the king, says, hey, it's going to be fun, yada, 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 everything that I just said. And the king says, I'm not going to do it. Isaiah says, excuse the fuck out of me? I just told you God will grant you a miracle. A miracle. You're being invaded right now. Ask for a miracle, and God will provide. And the king says, yeah, I'd rather not. I feel like it wouldn't show me in the best light to ask God for a miracle or any kind of sign that could be interpreted as me not having faith in him. I'll just take your word for it, bro. Isaiah of the sunburned dick. I'll take your word for it. 70 years hence, God's going to smite the wicked and bring 10% of us back here to Jerusalem, and we'll all get fat and happy and drunk on eggnog. And Isaiah says, you dumb son of a bitch. Do I gotta spell it out for your ass in crayon? Okay, fine. I'll get you. Here's a sign. Here's gonna be a baby who gets fat on eggnog while he's still young. 70 years or so hence. That'll be your sign, since you couldn't be goddamn bothered to take the fucking hint and ask for one when I told you to specifically. Be invaded then. Be invaded and be damned. Humph. Bah, humbug. Offer them miracles and they will fine. Won't take a miracle when you're offered one. Fine. No miracle for you. No word of the Lord for you from here on out. I just won't prophesize no more. See how you like that. It's a funny fucking story, and I happen to be partial to it. Ever since I heard it for the first time, when I read it in the book of Isaiah, about a calendar quarter ago. Yet another one I wasn't taught growing up. Which is weird in its own way. Let me put on my apologist hat for a moment. It's covered in dust. I don't use it often. All reality, none of it scripted. Okay. So with my apologist hat on, if the word of God comes to you, you better fucking do what he says. Hey, little wolf. I'm in the middle of my conversion experience here as we speak. If the word of the Lord comes to you, just fucking do it. Because if you don't, you are not going to like the consequences, because God is a spiteful, mean-spirited, small-souled little bastard. I mean, is a jealous God, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. What the... Okay, so this is a great story to teach kids if you're raising them to be Yahwist. And I don't mean that in the classical Old Testament critique, literary criticism sense of the Yahwist tradition, the Elohist tradition, not that. That's more depth than I care to get into, and I don't know that it's a particularly useful expenditure of time. Sorry, Dad. But you would think that the whole of this story would be one you would belabor your children with, not just, and a virgin shall conceive and bring forth a son, or a young woman, or whatever. Or a young woman, or whatever, married or not particularly remarkable. People with wombs have been giving birth since the invention of the womb back in the womb factory in the days of yore, long gone since goodbye. It's not remarkable. That's the point of the parable. Teach the kids the whole story. The word of the Lord comes to the prophet. The prophet goes to the king. Says everything's going to be fine eventually. These things have a way of evening themselves out. The wicked do not prevail forever. Times of trial come and go. Huge swaths of the righteous will be wiped out, but some will always remain. I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the truth of the living God. And if you want a demonstration, ask of the Lord, and he will prove himself to you. And the king, more convinced of his own righteousness than of the truth of the word of God as spoken through the prophet, declined. So the prophet said, fine. You don't want an actual miracle? Here's this one. There will be children born again in the land. When you see children born again in the land, you will know that my name is the Lord. See? It works. Just from a storytelling perspective, it works. It actually does. Teach kids the whole Bible if you must teach them any. And think long and hard and carefully before you teach them any. But no, just the Jesus-y bits. Just the Jesus-y bits. None of the human frailty, none of the parsimoniousness and viciousness of God. None of the temper tantrums that God throws when he doesn't get his way. No. Christians, by and large and writ large, to generalize widely with wild strokes of an extremely broad brush. Christians writ large only teach some and leave out a lot. And the extent of what even those of us who were taught more generous portions of the Bible than many of our peers and members of our cohort. No, the genocide, exactly. Even those of us who were taught more of it than a lot of other people in our age bracket. A lot was left out. I've got thoughts on how doctrine is taught to children. And I've got thoughts on the sort of doctrine that was taught to me. If you want to hear me do a little bit deeper dive into some of the points with which I take a special issue, somebody get your mod fingers ready to drop a link. Make sure you subscribe to my friend Junior the Apostate, a criminally undersubscribed up-and-coming channel. I had the absolute delightful pleasure of being interviewed for quite recently. That video will be out soon. All right, y'all, we've been going almost an hour. I know we only did like 3 chapters, but this book makes me tired. And so do these kind of rants. And so does wearing my apologist hat. I want to thank you all for joining me here today. Yep, Mama's here. Time to run. Usually we only do that when Paul shows up, so you're in excellent company, Mama. So what did we learn on the show tonight, Craig? If you plagiarize good enough, you can get away with it. Or shittily enough. This is a crap book. This is really, really terrible. It's badly written. It's badly constructed. It's racist. It's full of genocide and misogyny. It's just terrible. It's a bad book. And when you've got... when you've got this fucking thing in the room, and you can hold up any other book and criticize it and say it's bad, you got fucking problems in your hands. Deepest thanks to my Patreon supporters whose names have been sauntering sportily across the bottom of the screen this entire time. Folks who made the channel's ongoingness possible during a very stressful time in the life of the library and of yours truly. Special thanks as well to some supporters who wish to be anonymous, whose wishes I respect. Of course, Richard, thank you so much for stopping by. It's a weird, scary world out there, y'all. And there are some followers of this book and some of its derivatives who seem to be making a concerted effort to make it weirder and scarier. Some of these people I've called out by name here on the channel before. Some of these people I'll call out here on the channel again. Remain aware of what your legislators are up to. There's some terrible, tragic, horrifying legislation being passed in this country right now. And especially for those of us who inhabit various corners of the LGBTQIA plus community, it's starting to get even weirder and scarier than it was even not all that many years ago. Be there for your friends. Be there for your neighbors. Be there for everybody. Be human. Be humanist. Stick up for each other. Everybody take care and be safe. Stand against the hate. Speak against the hate as loudly as you safely can, or as you're willing and able to, whether it's safe or not. If you need a little more atheist attacking scripture in your life, you need to bang your head against the wall just a little bit harder and a little bit more. Join us over on Lisa for Truth's channel here in a little bit. We're finally done and dusted with Leviticus, but that means we've got to do Numbers. Some of us are doing Numbers again. Stay safe out there, y'all. I'm going to roll my smite tro again because I like it. Thank you, Brainbug, for my smite tro. Be safe out there, y'all. And we'll see you again soon.